What if the sister who mocked your origin was hiding a secret about her own? Stay with me as I unfold this shocking story, and please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. It truly keeps me going. The first time I saw the envelope, it was not in a mailbox. It waited for me backstage at graduation, brown and heavy like it carried a heartbeat. There was no return address, only my name in block letters with a steady hand that knew me better than I knew myself. I already knew whose hand it was. The air smelled like flowers and cheap perfume and the sugar glaze from the bakery table in the lobby. The principal's voice echoed through the gym while the jazz band fussed with a crooked stand light. My cap itched. My palms sweated. I held the envelope with both hands like it might bite. A year earlier, I would have opened it right there and sobbed. But that was before I learned that not opening something can be more powerful than opening it. Suspense is a kind of leash. It yanks and yanks until you decide who is walking who. So, I tucked the envelope under my gown, breathed in, and smiled for a photographer who told me to tilt my chin. The flash popped like a small thunder. I thought of my sister. Brianna could make a smile look like a knife. She had done it since we were little girls in Durham, North Carolina, in a ranch house that smelled like starch and cooking oil. She was 2 years older, with hair always done and a laugh that pulled people in like gravity. When I arrived at 8 years old with a social worker and a suitcase, our mother Patrice washed my hair and sang the song I would come to call my first lullaby. Our father, Leonard, built me a shelf for my books and said, "You do not have to earn a bed in this house." He said it in front of Brianna, calm and full. She did not like that. Brianna whispered while we brushed our teeth at night. She made jokes that did not look like jokes. She would say the agency probably had to buy one take, one sale. She would tell kids at the bus stop that I was secondhand. When teachers praised my essays, she rolled her eyes and said charity case. She hid my homework and swore she did not. I kept quiet and learned to hold on to things with both hands. By senior fall, my quiet had teeth. I was taking advanced classes, joining the robotics club, and volunteering on Fridays at a reading circle downtown. I had a folder on my laptop called Soft Armor where I kept screenshots of texts, photos of vandalized notebooks, and notes about the night the principal called us because someone had spread a rumor that I cheated. The rumor had Brianna's perfume all over it. I did not show the folder to my parents. Not then. There is a difference between running to be held and choosing when to speak. I was learning the difference. Brianna pretended she did not see how graduation crept closer and her grades slipped like soap. She spent her time making videos with fake tears and dramatic music. She made a series called Perfect Sister with captions about how adopted kids were damaged goods and learned how to cry at the exact second the view count spiked. Her friends ate it up. She liked to say blood is thicker than water and then stare at me like she was stirring the pot. I kept studying. I knew my moment would come. When acceptance letters rolled in, I sat on our living room floor and opened mine last. My mother paced with a cold cup of tea she forgot to drink. My father watched with his hand pressed under his chin like he was holding up the whole house. Brianna sat with her legs crossed and a smile that read as victory in every language. She opened 7 emails and read the same sentence 7 different ways. Unfortunately, she blamed academic requirements, teachers who did not like her, a system that never saw her sparkle. She called every no a mistake. She slammed the laptop. She would not look at me. I opened one email and did not hide it. Congratulations sat at the top like a gold seal. I had a partial scholarship to Howard University. I had not told anyone yet. I wanted the day to speak for itself. My mother covered her mouth with both hands. Tears slipped between her fingers. My father stood and hugged me with the kind of hug that says you made it home even though you are still in the room where you started. Brianna laughed a dry laugh. She said prodigy orphan, like it was a disease. She asked if they were really going to spend money on me. She said I was not a real daughter. The slap did not land on my face. It landed on her mouth. My mother does not believe in slaps. She believes in words. But that day, She touched cheek to palm with a sound that froze the air. "Never speak like that again," she said, voice level. "You can be angry. You cannot be cruel." Brianna's pride cracked and then set like cement. She stormed up the stairs. Our house turned into a museum of closed doors. She would not come to the table. She would not come to bed. She collected silence like it was a weapon. 2 days later, the principal sent an email. There was evidence of plagiarism on 2 assignments. Screenshots. Identical passages. A formal process would begin. She could be kept from graduating. My father sat on the porch in the dark and held his phone like it had blood on it. My mother cried in the bathroom with the water running, as if the faucet could hide the sound from the walls. Brianna did not go to school. She did not go anywhere. She stayed in her room with the blinds pulled down like eyelids. When she came down to the kitchen on the 4th morning, she wore sunglasses. She stirred cereal she did not eat and asked me if I enjoyed the show. She asked if I had told the school or if I wanted to carry her guilt to the front office on a silver tray. I told her she dug her own grave with a ring light. She smiled. It was not human. It was a street corner smile, the kind you see in reflection and cross away from. She said I only won because no one expects anything from someone who came from trash. The spoon fell when she noticed our mother listening in the doorway. My mother did not speak. She turned and walked away. That hurt Brianna more than any slap could. Being ignored told her she was no longer the center of gravity in her own home. A week later, the school made its move. There would be no ceremony for Brianna. That was the word the letter used. No ceremony. She screamed when she read it. She shook the walls. Blame fell like nails. Me. Teachers. The system. The school was not moved. They escorted her out with an officer and a counselor. Our mother packed a small duffel. Aunt Denise's old Corolla pulled into our driveway. Brianna stepped into the back seat with her jaw set and her eyes dry and turned to the window as if we were strangers on a bus. When the car rolled away, she smiled at me. Not hate, not hurt. A different smile, like a person who knows where the shadows are in your house. Sometimes a house breathes when a person leaves. Ours exhaled. Dust settled. The floorboards did not cry anymore. I packed for Howard. I taped my acceptance letter to the mirror. The day before graduation, the school called and asked if I would give the student address. I said yes. I printed my speech. I memorized the first paragraph and hid a spare copy under a sweater. On graduation night, I found the brown envelope backstage. When I slid out the photograph inside, the room tilted. It was me as a child in the Ellis house, asleep with my cheek on a stuffed rabbit. In the corner, a figure stood in shadow with a scarf I knew. On the back of the photo was a sentence written in red pen. The house is not yours. It never was. I still have the key. I folded the photo and tucked it back inside. I did not cry. I pressed the envelope flat. Then I walked toward the stage. You would think a graduation speech would be the easiest talk a person could give. People want hope. They want polished words about the future. But my hands hummed with a different music. At the podium, the mic smelled like metal and breath. The gym lights made my eyes water. I found my parents in the 3rd row. My mother had her hands clasped so hard the knuckles blanched. My father's face was stone. In the very back, near the exit, a figure in a dark cap sat without moving. I knew that posture the way a body knows old injury. Good evening, I said. The words came out clear. We are here because we kept going. Some of us ran. Some of us crawled. Some of us were carried when our legs forgot how to move. Thank you to the ones who carried. I talked about teachers who unlocked notebooks instead of doors. I talked about the weight of expectation and the strange freedom that comes when you are told you are less. I did not use my sister's name. I did not need to. The truth has a shape people recognize, even if they pretend they do not. The applause felt warm without burning. The principal shook my hand with both of his. As I walked off, the band began a song I love, but the notes could not find me. Backstage, I took out the envelope and looked at the photo again. The scarf in the corner was gold and navy. Brianna wore it on her hair whenever she wanted to look poetic for a camera. The picture was not new. It was taken years ago. That meant one thing. The key she bragged about was not hardware. It was memory. It was the pattern of our house, the sound of our locks, the way the kitchen window sticks if you push too soft and flies open if you push too hard. It was a different kind of key. It was intimate knowledge. In my head, a plan formed like a picture in a tray of developer. Soft armor was not just a folder on my laptop anymore. It was my way forward. I would not go to war with a sword and screams. I would go with receipts and patience. I started by checking our house the next morning. The locks were smooth. The windows latched. The guest room, once Brianna's, felt like a set from an old show. A framed photo stood on the dresser of two little girls on a summer day. The two little girls were both smiling, but if you looked close, you saw one smile reaching for the camera and one smile reaching for approval. I slid open the closet. A dark wooden box sat behind a shoe rack like it had grown there. The padlock was cheap. The temptation was not. Inside the box, Brianna had kept a museum of me. Old notes, gift tags, fragments of assignments with teacher comments in red ink. The corner of a birthday card I had made for her in marker with too much glitter. And my diary, the one that went missing when I was 12. My private words had been read until the pages curled. In the margins, someone had written small thoughts that did not belong to me. She had circled sentences like, "Sometimes I feel like I am practicing being loved," and wrote beside them, see. She labeled moments like exhibits. She was not only mocking me, she was studying me. On the last page, in fresh pen, a sentence waited. "The world loves you now, but the world loves victims. Let us see what happens when you are the villain." I felt my throat go dry. I closed the diary and sat on the floor until my breathing matched the slow spin of the ceiling fan. That afternoon, I did what I should have done months ago. I told my parents. I laid the diary on the kitchen table. I did not talk about the whispered comments and the homework games and the online digs. I showed them what could not be argued with. I showed them the video from my phone where the hall light flipped on at 2:43 in the morning and my doorknob turned twice and then went still. I showed my mother the photo from the envelope and watched her face harden into something I had never seen on her. It looked like a choice. "We will call Denise," my father said. "We will ask where Brianna is." Aunt Denise answered on the second ring and spoke like she had been waiting for our call. Brianna had left 2 nights earlier. She left her phone on the kitchen table. She took cash from an envelope. She said she was going for a walk and did not return. Denise thought she was with a friend. She did not know which one. She did not say the words that hung in the air. She did not say she was sorry. I did not want her sorry. I wanted a handle to hold. The school day after that felt like walking across a field where snakes sleep. People whispered and pretended they did not. Someone wrote a message on my locker. "Those who climb by stepping on others fall bleeding." The custodian wiped it clean as if a erasing marker could erase a feeling. In the library, the boy who used to date Brianna watched me from the stacks. His name was Terrence, but everyone called him Terry, and he loved her even when she did not love him. He asked if he could walk me home. I said no. He said she was not well. I knew that. He said she wanted a chance to tell her side. I also knew that. It would not be a side. It would be a stage. That night our router hiccuped. All my speech files vanished. The draft in my email disappeared as if it had never existed. In its place, someone uploaded a document titled Confession. It read like a confession from a villain in a cheap movie. It blamed me for everything. It used words I never use. It quoted things I had never said. It had a rhythm I recognized. The principal called in the morning. The school restored the backups. They promised to monitor the network. I thanked them and closed my eyes and saw my sister not like a person, but like an atmosphere, a weather pattern, heavy and certain. The video dropped at noon. The title read the truth about my perfect sister. The thumbnail used a photo of me on the stage with my hands lifted toward the light like I was preaching. The edit was pure Brianna. Music, black and white clips, red words on the screen. She accused me of planting evidence. She accused me of starting rumors about her. She accused me of manipulating our parents with tears and grades and a poor adopted girl story. People believe the worst when it comes in fancy packaging. My father wanted to call a lawyer. My mother wanted to drive to every house where a friend might hide Brianna. I wanted to breathe. The comments started in a flood. You can always tell the quiet ones. She looked fake on that stage. Charity Case playing hero. I put my phone face down and felt something inside me go cool. It was not numb. It was not rage. It was ice that did not shatter when it hit the ground. That night, I opened Soft Armor and built a timeline that stretched from the day I entered the Ellis house to the day the video dropped. Dates, times, copies of emails, photos of ruined notebooks, screenshots of messages where Brianna told a friend she was going to make me pay for making her look bad. I pulled a deed file from the county website that showed a trust our parents created when I was 10. I did not know that part until that moment. The trust had two names, mine and Brianna's, joint and equal. They had never told us. The embarrassment of the parent who hides a gift so long it becomes a secret. I asked my parents to sit at the table. They sat like people invited to a funeral no one planned. I gave them the stack. I did not raise my voice. I did not weep. I said the plain thing. You raised two daughters. One is breaking in silence. One is breaking the house. The truth is that you have to pick who gets your name now, not just who gets your hugs. Not because love comes in a small cup, because safety does. My mother looked me straight in the eyes. We pick you, she said. We choose you first. Tonight, tomorrow, the next day. My father nodded. You never had to be chosen to belong here. You already belonged. But we ignored what our belonging meant when someone else does not want to share it. That is our failure. We will fix it. I asked if they were ready to fix it in public. A plan began. If Brianna wanted a stage, we would choose the lights. If she wanted an audience, we would invite one that knows how to listen. It felt like placing chess pieces on a board where the other player thinks you only know checkers. I did not know that while we planned, Brianna was planning too. That is the problem with sisters who share a house. We learn the same tools. We sharpen different parts of the blade. The night before our meeting with the school, I could not sleep. The house sounded like a body. Pipes sighed. The refrigerator clicked. A car passed, and the headlights painted the ceiling in white squares. I thought about the trust one had found in the county records. Two names, joint and equal. I thought about the way my father had said we will fix it and the way my mother had said we pick you. I thought about the brown envelope and the key that was not a key and the line on the back that said the house is not yours. My heartbeat settled into a rhythm that sounded like a difficult promise. Morning brought heat that stuck to the skin. We drove to the principal's office together. People stared. I felt their eyes like hands. The principal ushered us into a conference room with a long table and a bowl of wrapped candies that no one ever eats. The counselor sat with her chin held high and her eyes soft the way counselors are trained to look. The district representative joined by video with a bookshelf behind him and an unread book turned backward for decoration. It felt like a court that would not call itself a court. I presented the timeline. I showed the videos. I shared the folder. I did not show the diary. That was mine. The principal listened and did not pretend to be surprised. The counselor wrote notes that I hoped were real words and not lines like student reports ongoing. The district man asked if I believed Brianna might escalate to physical harm. I said escalation is not only a punch. It is a campaign. He nodded as if I had solved a math problem he had not studied for. The principal promised additional monitoring for any events connected to me. He promised security at larger gatherings. He promised an investigation into the network breach. He did not promise to stop gossip. No one can stop gossip. You can only drown it with truth. On the way home, my phone buzzed. A private number. A man's voice came through, clean and low. He said he represented a woman who had been my mother once, but not by law. He used careful language and asked if I would accept a letter. I asked his name. He said, Mr. Cole. He said the woman had wanted to give me something for years but had been afraid. He said she had no interest in intruding. He said she lived 3 towns over now and worked at a bakery. He said the letter was already on the way. My mother saw my face change in the rearview mirror and asked who that was. I told her. Silence filled the car like smoke. She pulled into a church parking lot and turned off the engine. She did not cry. She reached for my hand. I will always be your mother, she said, but I will not hold you from your history. If you want to read the letter, we will read it with you. If you want to throw it away, I will burn it with you. If you want to meet her, I will stand where you can see me and smile. I had never loved her more than in that moment. Love is not how you hold. It is how you let go without letting someone fall. The letter arrived the next afternoon in a white envelope with a simple return address. My hands trembled. My father watched me from the kitchen table. My mother stood by the sink wiping a clean plate. I opened it. The paper was thin and lined. The handwriting bent, right like it was walking quickly. She told me I had been her light in a season so dark she thought morning would never return. She told me she loved me and that love did not come with a manual. She told me she let me go because she was drowning and an aunt who loved me had asked to step in. She told me my adoption into the Ellis home had not been a lottery or a sale, but a decision made inside a family that refused to let me be lost to the wind. She told me the part no one had told us. Brianna and I were both chosen. Brianna's father was not Leonard. She had come to Patrice as a baby when a cousin could not manage and disappeared. Papers were drawn later. Blood had never been the measure in our house, but shame had been a guard dog. Our parents had meant to share the truth when we were older. Older kept changing. Secrets grow while you wait. They do not sleep. My mother slid into a chair and covered her mouth. My father put his hands over his face and breathed like a runner at the end of a race. I read the letter again. The words rearranged themselves into a numbness that held me upright. The mocking jokes made new sense. The rage when our mother set limits made new sense. The way Brianna watched me when there was joy in the room made new sense. She was the one who felt outside, even as she wore the name Ellis from birth. She was the one who wanted to point the finger at me so no one would look long at her. A terrible understanding broke, open like a seed pod. It did not excuse a single bruise she had left on me, but it explained the shape of her hunger. We called Aunt Denise. She did not pick up. We called Terry. He said he had not seen Brianna in 2 days. He sounded scared in a way that made my stomach drop. He said she talked about a stage and a night and a microphone. He said she had filmed something special and needed the perfect reveal. I felt my body go cold. Graduation awards night was that evening at the Civic Center. All families, teachers, cameras. The town news often filmed a segment for the morning broadcast. The security the principal promised would be light at the doors, but not inside. The stage would be open. We drove early. The Civic Center smelled like floor polish and helium balloons. A banner hung crooked. I walked the stage before anyone else arrived. I counted the steps to the wings. I found the fire exit. I noted where the security guards stood and where they did not. The journalist from the local station stood at the back, chatting with a cameraman. I told my mother to keep her phone ready. I told my father to keep his body between me and any storm he saw brewing. He nodded like a soldier. The program started. Names and claps and photos and blessings flashed by. My award for community literacy service waited near the end. The principal called my row. I rose and felt the now familiar tingle of eyes. As I stepped into the aisle, the back door opened on a whisper. A woman in a dark cap slid through with a backpack slung across one shoulder. I knew the way she walked. Half glide, half dare. She did not come for me at first. She went for the camera. She handed the backpack to the cameraman and smiled like a morning show host. He frowned and tried to step back. She pulled out the brown envelope and held it up like a prize and said into the mic that she had a truth to share about the perfect sister. The reporter blinked. The room stilled. I moved without thinking. Soft armor had taught me that flinching gives your opponent your choreography. I walked up the side aisle and onto the stage and took the second microphone that had been set for a choir that would never sing because the music teacher had a family emergency. I faced the crowd and looked at my parents and then at the camera and then at Brianna. "Before my sister speaks," I said, "I would like to read something that belongs to this family." I held up the white letter. My voice did not shake. It carried. I read the sentences about being someone's light. I read the sentence about a family that refused to let me be lost. I read the sentence about both girls being chosen. The room breathed like a single creature. The principal stepped forward and then stopped. The reporter leaned in. Brianna's smile faltered. "Brianna," I said, turning to her without anger. "You are more loved than the lies you tell to feel big. You wanted a stage. Here it is. But I will not let you turn this into a circus. We can talk as sisters in a room with a door that shuts and a counselor who uses our names. Or we can do it here where our ghosts can clap. I am done feeding ghosts." She stared at me with a face I had never seen. It was not hatred. It was a kind of loss. She held the envelope tighter. For a second I believed she would drop it, cry, and say she was tired. Then she laughed a single laugh like a bark. She pulled something small from her pocket and held it up. A key. Real metal this time. It shone under the lights. "The house," she said, "is not yours. You never earned it." She moved toward the steps. Security stepped in. She did not fight. She used her voice instead. "Ask them who your father is," she yelled. "Ask them why secrets live in the walls." The crowd erupted. People can resist facts. They cannot resist drama. The reporter's eyes sparkled like she had found a vein of gold. My mother stood. My father stood. For a moment, I thought the entire room would tip over. I made my choice. "Enough," I said into the mic. "This is my family. I will not let my sister's pain turn into a show. If anyone here wants me to fall, you will have to push me yourself." I stepped off the stage and walked to Brianna and held out my hand. She looked at my palm like it was a trick. Finally, she put the key in it. It was cold. It was heavier than I expected. Security guided her toward the door. She went without looking back. The room buzzed like a hive you have just knocked. The program ended in fragments. Outside, the sky was the color of the bottom of a bruise. I pressed the key into my father's hand. He closed his fingers around it and looked at my mother. She nodded. We drove home, fast and quiet. The front door opened with the turn of an old lock, smooth like a familiar song. We stepped inside. The house did not feel like it belonged to any of us. It felt like it had been listening. Then I smelled it, a soft, sweet smell, like warm vanilla. I followed it down the hall to my room. On my pillow sat a small plastic toy rabbit with one ear broken off. It was the same rabbit from the photo. Under it, a note. 3 words in the same block letters. "See you soon." You can plan for storms. You can pack a bag and tape the windows and move the car and save the batteries. You cannot plan for the way your own hands look when the first drop hits. Mine looked steady, which frightened me more than shaking would have. We called a locksmith and a friend who works private security. We replaced every lock. We installed a small camera above the back door and one near my window. My mother brewed coffee and drank none. My father walked the perimeter with a flashlight even though the sun was up. We told the police about the note and the toy rabbit. The officer wrote everything on a pad and said words like ongoing and follow up. It felt like standing at the edge of a hole while someone measures it. That evening, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Aunt Denise with a face like broken glass. We let her in. She was shaking. She said Brianna had called to say she was done. She had cried, and then she had laughed, and then she had gone quiet and whispered that if the world loved victims, then she would take that love back. Denise had begged her to come home. Brianna had hung up. We called Terry. He answered on the first ring and said he was already in his car. He sounded like a person who has run out of ways to be brave and still tries. We gave the police the corner where she often went when she wanted a view of things that might never be hers, the old pedestrian bridge over the river near the train yard. The sky looked like a bruise again. The moon was a thin coin. We reached the bridge and found her sitting on the railing, eating a candy bar. She looked at us like we were late for a party. She did not get up. She did not threaten to jump. She threatened us with a story. She said she had recorded everything at the Civic Center and cut it into a masterpiece. She said by morning everyone would know the Ellis house from the inside out. She said people love pain. She said they would devour ours. She said we would finally understand what it was like to be her. It is strange what slips into your mouth when a moment cracks. I heard myself say, pain is a story that ends when someone listens. She snorted. I told her the secret from the letter. I said it without pity. Patrice's cousin. 2 chosen girls. Shame as guard dog. Brianna's mouth trembled for the first time since she had turned her voice into a stone bat. She asked if it was true. My mother said yes, eyes open, shoulders straight. My father said yes, voice low. Brianna laughed. It was a small sound like a bubble popping. She asked why they had not told us. My mother said she thought she had more time. My father said he had been afraid. Brianna stared at the river and said, fear is greedy. It takes everything. We stood there in a fragile square. The officer, who had followed at a respectful distance, watched with his hand near his radio. Terry stood 10 feet away with his hands in his pockets and his eyes wet. Aunt Denise prayed under her breath. The lights of the freight yard blinked like a distant city. I told Brianna what I wanted. No stage, no viral post, no circus, a family room with a counselor who knows how to hold knives without bleeding, a contract that said if she crossed a line again, there would be legal consequences, not to punish, to protect. I told her about the trust. Her eyes flashed. She called it payment. I called it responsibility. She said she would never sit in a room with a stranger and tell them what she did or did not feel. I said then the stranger would be a judge. She said pick me then. Pick her. Say the quiet part out loud. Choose the adopted one over the one who wore your last name first. She wanted us to hurt in the place that had always felt safe. She wanted us to name the fracture so she could use it like a crowbar. My father leaned forward, elbows on the railing, and spoke the sentence that would move us all. We pick the daughter who keeps the house standing. He did not look at me when he said it. He looked straight at the water like he was telling a river a story. My mother took my hand. Aunt Denise closed her eyes. Terry wiped his face. The officer took a breath. Something in Brianna's posture eased. Not melted. Eased. She looked not at me, but at my parents. She whispered, so it is true. I have been trying to belong inside a room that my shame locked from the inside. She stood slowly and stepped back from the edge and reached into her bag and took out a small hard drive. For a second I saw a child handing over a toy she was not supposed to play with yet. She held it out. I reached. Before I could touch it, she pulled it back and smiled like a person who finds power even in surrender. Trade, she said. Give me the letter. I shook my head. No more trading pain for pain. The officer stepped forward as if to guide her away. She slipped left and ducked under his arm with the old glide and the old dare. She did not run. She walked toward the parking lot with the looseness of a person who has finally made a choice and does not know if it will save or ruin her. She turned once and called out, "I will see you soon." Like a promise and a threat were the same sentence. The days that followed were quiet in a way that worried me more than noise would. We met with a family therapist who listened without hurrying us toward forgiveness. My parents amended the trust to include conditions that centered safety and boundaries. They gave me power of attorney for decisions tied to the house until Brianna entered therapy and stayed. They set a rule that said any contact had to happen in the presence of a third party. They chose me, not as a favorite, but as the steward of what keeps the roof from falling. The video never surfaced. The local news ran a gentle piece on resilience in the graduating class. My speech trended on a neighborhood page with kind comments that felt like warm towels. The diary went into a sealed envelope that the therapist would hold as evidence that the past was not a rumor. The hard drive remained a ghost. I did not know where it was. The uncertainty was not a comfort. It was a new version of the key. Then, a week later, the envelope returned. This time it was white and thin and slid under our door while the kettle began to sing. My mother picked it up. Hand steady. She handed it to me. I opened it. Inside was a single key. Not to our house. To a small storage unit across town. A number was written on a sticky note. Under the number, 4 words. Open it with me. The note did not say a day. It did not say a time. It did not say a location beyond a row and a door. It did not say whether Brianna would arrive with love, rage, or a camera crew. My parents looked at me. I looked back. My breath found a rhythm that felt like a countdown. We drove to the storage facility in the late afternoon when the air above the asphalt trembles. We checked in at the office. The clerk did not look up. We walked past rows of corrugated doors that looked like a neighborhood of metal mouths. The number led us to a unit near the back. I slid the key into the lock. It turned like a thought. The door rose. Inside, against a far wall, sat a single object on a folding table, a brown envelope, and standing beside it, with her hair pulled back and no sunglasses and no smile, was Brianna. "Before you open it," she said, "I have something to say that I do not want a stage to hear." She swallowed. Her voice dropped. I told myself that if I could make the world clap for my pain, then I would never have to feel small again. I did not realize that building a crowd is the fastest way to lose your name. She slid the envelope forward with 2 fingers. This is everything I took. The diary copies, the photos, the cut video, the hard drive. I brought it here so we could close a door together. But I brought you here because I need you to see one more thing. Not a trick, a truth. She stepped aside. On the wall behind the table, taped like a final project, hung a photo none of us had ever seen. 2 babies in a bassinet. One with a ribbon around her ankle that said Ellis in black ink. One with a ribbon that said Ellis in blue. Both at the Ellis house, the same patterned blanket, the same gentle light. The same mother bending over them with a smile so soft it could have been air. Patrice Ellis had already picked us both once, long before papers, long before jokes, long before fear learned our names. My mother covered her mouth. My father reached for her and missed, and then tried again and touched her shoulder and whispered thank you to a world I could not see. Brianna kept her eyes on the floor. "You can hate me for the rest of your life," she said to me without looking up. "Or you can stand in a room with me and let a stranger with a kind voice help me make new bones." I said nothing. I walked forward and set my palm on the brown envelope. It felt heavy. It felt like a choice. I turned to my parents. They did not tell me what to do. They had already chosen me. Now it was my turn to choose what kind of daughter I would be with the choosing. I lifted the envelope and nodded. "We will open it together," I said, "in that room with the kind stranger." Brianna finally looked at me. The old dare was gone. The old glide was gone. What remained was a girl at the edge of a bed, waiting to see if she will be told there is room. She nodded back. Outside, thunder rolled far away. Inside, we stood still. the key in my pocket pressed against my leg like a heartbeat. The door of the storage unit slid down with a clean metal sigh. And somewhere in the building, one more door began to open. Thank you for watching till the very end. It truly means a lot, and please subscribe to my channel. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. Goodbye for now.